There is a weight inside that shows up in small ways: hesitation, tightness, or a sudden pause when a certain thought appears. It doesn't rise to punish you. It rises because it wants your attention. Jung explained that the parts we avoid don't disappear. They wait quietly and influence us from the background. When you feel a little uncomfortable right now, that feeling is a sign that you're getting close to something important. It means you're finally noticing what you used to push away. The lesson here is simple. Facing what you've been avoiding is the first step toward feeling lighter. Forgiveness doesn't arrive all at once. It comes through small moments of honesty. By admitting that this weight exists, you've already begun the process of letting it go. The first step is turning toward the part of yourself you've been avoiding. It's the part that makes you feel tense or uneasy without a clear reason. Jung called this hidden part the shadow, the part that quietly shapes your thoughts and actions. A sign that you're ready for this step is feeling that tightness inside. Your body and mind are pointing to what you've been avoiding. The lesson is simple. Noticing what you've hidden takes away some of its power. You don't have to fix anything yet. Just see it. Just admit it exists. A helpful way to do this is to write down the moment or memory that causes the tension, using plain, simple words. Even this small act can make the hidden part smaller and easier to face. By facing the quiet truth, you take the first real step toward forgiving yourself. The second step is saying, in plain words, what took place. When a memory stays blurry, your mind fills the blank spots with extra guilt and worry. Jung often pointed out that things we avoid become bigger in the background, and things we describe clearly lose their grip on us. You'll know you're ready for this step when you feel tired of guessing or replaying the moment without answers. That tired feeling is a sign that your mind wants clarity. The lesson here is simple. When you state the facts as they are, the moment becomes smaller and easier to face. Use short sentences. Say only what you know is true. This keeps the memory from growing into something larger than it really was. By naming what actually happened, you give yourself a clean starting point for everything that comes next. The third step is understanding that what you did is not the same as who you are. A single mistake does not tell your whole story, even if it feels loud in your mind. Jung often pointed out that every person has many sides, and no single moment can define the entire self. A sign that you need this step is when you keep replaying the same moment as if it's the only thing that matters. That constant replay is your mind mixing the action with your identity. The lesson here is to gently pull the two apart. You can say, "This is something I did, not the whole of me." When you make this separation, the mistake becomes something you can learn from instead of something that controls how you see yourself. This shift opens space for forgiveness to begin. The fourth step is looking at why you did what you did. This isn't about making excuses. It's about noticing the reasons behind your actions. Jung said that much of what we do happens below the surface, without our full awareness. A sign that you're ready for this step is when you feel curious about what drove your choices, even if it feels uncomfortable. The lesson is that understanding doesn't erase responsibility, but it helps you see patterns so you can act differently next time. Try asking yourself simple questions. Why did I react this way? What was I trying to do or avoid? Even small answers give clarity and start to loosen the hold the past has on you. When you face the hidden motive, you begin to turn confusion into insight, which makes forgiveness possible. The fifth step is realizing that being human means having limits. We all make mistakes, miss signs, or act without full understanding. Jung emphasized that accepting these limits reduces the weight of unrealistic expectations we place on ourselves. A sign that you're ready for this step is noticing when you blame yourself for not knowing or doing more. The lesson is simple. You acted with the understanding and resources you had at that moment. Saying to yourself, "I did what I could with what I knew," helps release some of the burden. By accepting your limits, you stop punishing yourself for being human, and you create space for real forgiveness to grow. The sixth step is creating a clear statement that acknowledges the mistake and allows you to let go of the ongoing punishment. This is not about pretending nothing happened or ignoring the consequences. It's about telling yourself that the time for endless self-blame is over. Jung believed that words have power. They shape the way we understand ourselves. By speaking intentionally, you start to reorganize your inner world. A sign that you're ready for this step is noticing tension or heaviness in your chest when thinking about the mistake. That feeling shows the part of you that needs release. The lesson is that a simple, repeated statement can act like a key. It opens the door that has kept you locked in regret. Try using a short, plain sentence that names the mistake and allows you to step away from punishment. For example, "I recognize what I did, and I let go of carrying this weight endlessly." Repeat it quietly, out loud, or write it down. The more calmly and clearly you say it, the more your mind and body start to accept it. Even if the feeling doesn't disappear immediately, each time you repeat it, the tension becomes lighter. By offering this statement of release, you give yourself permission to move forward, making the next step, living with a new inner agreement, possible. The seventh step is deciding how you want to live now, after letting go of the past. Forgiveness becomes real when you start acting differently, even in small ways. And when your thoughts about yourself change, Jung taught that transformation happens when what we know consciously meets the patterns we've carried quietly inside. A sign that you're ready for this step is noticing small moments where you respond more calmly or with more patience than before. The lesson is that each small choice is proof of change. It shows that the past no longer controls you completely. Start with something simple. One small action, one gentle thought, one moment of kindness toward yourself. These small shifts add up, forming a new pattern for the future. Say to yourself, "I will treat myself with steadiness and honesty, not punishment." By keeping this promise, you create a new inner agreement, one that supports growth and real forgiveness. As you continue, you'll notice that the world around you seems to shift too, not because it has changed, but because you have changed, and your mind now sees it differently. This step shows that self-forgiveness is not a single moment. It is a process built slowly, quietly, and steadily from inside. What if you cannot forgive yourself, no matter what you do? Sometimes, even after following every step, the weight does not lift. You may feel stuck, frustrated, or convinced that self-forgiveness will never arrive. This does not mean you have failed. It only shows that some parts of you are still holding tightly to old patterns, memories, or beliefs. Jung observed that the mind often protects itself by clinging to familiar pain, even when it causes suffering. A sign you are here is the constant replay of the same moment, over and over, as if it defines you. Another sign is the feeling that nothing you do changes anything, and the heaviness feels permanent. The first lesson is patience. Forgiveness is not a race, and some changes take longer than we expect. It is okay to admit, "I cannot forgive this part of myself yet." Saying this is not giving up. It is acknowledging reality, and honesty opens the door to real growth. Shift your goal from forcing release to simply observing your struggle without judgment. Notice how your body and mind respond to the memory. Is your chest tight? Are your thoughts racing? These are signs that something is still alive inside, needing gentle attention. Even noticing without fixing is progress. The mind starts to let go as soon as it feels seen and understood. Another lesson is that small steps matter. A small act of self-kindness, a pause before self-blame, a gentle thought toward yourself, a simple statement of recognition, shows that you are slowly changing. These moments are proof that the mind can adjust, even if it feels impossible. Sometimes forgiveness returns not as a sudden release, but as subtle shifts. You may notice moments when guilt is lighter, when your reactions are calmer, or when you treat yourself with steadiness instead of punishment. Each of these small shifts is a thread, slowly unraveling the weight you've carried. Even time itself can help. Jung suggested that the unconscious works quietly, behind the scenes, until understanding and acceptance emerge naturally. Trust that if you keep showing up for yourself, the process is moving, even when you cannot feel it fully yet. Stay present. Stay honest. Keep taking tiny steps forward. One day, release will arrive, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it to unfold in its own time. Even when forgiveness feels impossible, your attention, patience, and care are creating the space for it to finally appear. Even after forgiving, or while still working on forgiving yourself, the weight you carried can teach you something important. This is not about blame or guilt. It is about noticing the patterns that guided your past choices and understanding how they shaped you. A sign that this work is happening is when memories that once brought sharp pain now bring quiet lessons instead. The lesson here is that every mistake holds information about what you value, what you fear, and how you respond under pressure. Pay attention to these small insights. They can guide how you act, what you pay attention to, and how you care for yourself going forward. Even tiny realizations, like noticing a recurring thought, a trigger, or a reaction, are clues your mind gives you to grow. By learning from the weight instead of only trying to escape it, you turn what once felt like punishment into a guide. This step transforms the past from something heavy into something useful. It shows that forgiveness is not only about release. It's also about wisdom and self-understanding. Forgiving yourself is not a single moment. It grows slowly, through small choices every day. A first tip is to notice your thoughts without judging them. When guilt, shame, or self-blame appears, pause and say quietly, "I see this thought, but it does not control me." A sign that this practice is working is when these thoughts start to lose their power, when they no longer dominate your attention for long stretches. Another tip is to keep a small journal or notebook. Each day, write down one action, one thought, or one choice that reflects progress, even if it feels tiny. A small moment of calm, a pause before reacting, or a simple kind thought toward yourself is proof that the work is moving forward. You can also create micro check-ins throughout your day. Ask, "What do I need right now?" and give yourself permission to respond, even if it's just a short moment of rest or a quiet acknowledgement of your effort. A lesson here is that forgiveness is strengthened by awareness. The more you notice yourself, the more you loosen the grip of the past. Another tip is to celebrate small shifts. When you respond with patience instead of self-blame, when you pause instead of reacting, or when you notice yourself breathing more easily, these are all signs of progress. It helps to repeat gentle phrases to yourself, like, "I am learning," "I am noticing," "I am allowing myself to grow." Even if it feels awkward at first, repetition makes these habits stronger, shaping the mind to accept release and understanding. The final lesson is clear. Forgiveness lives in daily choice, in the small moments when you treat yourself with honesty, patience, and care. By practicing consistently, you create a space inside where the past can settle, where the weight becomes lighter, and where forgiveness can take root and grow steadily. Even after taking steps toward forgiveness, old habits and thought patterns can pull you back into guilt. This chapter is about noticing those patterns before they take over. A sign that a pattern is present is when a small trigger, an old memory, a certain thought, or a feeling, starts to grow quickly into shame or self-blame. The lesson is that awareness is power. The more you notice these patterns, the less they can control you. A practical tip is to pause whenever you feel tension or discomfort rising. Ask, what is happening inside me right now? What old pattern is showing itself? Another tip is to keep a short log of recurring reactions. Over time, you will see where the same triggers appear, which helps you respond differently. By noticing the patterns before they take control, you create space to choose your response instead of automatically falling into guilt. This section reminds you that self-forgiveness is ongoing. It is not just about releasing the past once. It is about learning to recognize and redirect your mind whenever old habits try to pull you back. What if forgiveness does not feel complete, even after trying every step? This chapter is about learning to embrace the process itself, rather than focusing only on the end result. Forgiveness is not a destination. It is a journey, and the journey is where growth happens. A sign that you are learning to embrace the process is noticing small changes in yourself, even if the big feelings of guilt or regret remain. It could be a pause before self-blame, a quieter thought when the memory appears, or simply a willingness to keep showing up for yourself. These small shifts are evidence that change is occurring, even if it feels invisible. The first lesson is patience. The mind often resists immediate change. Jung observed that transformation takes time because the unconscious works slowly, quietly, and on its own schedule. You may not feel lighter right away, and that is normal. The process is happening beneath the surface. A tip is to acknowledge each step, no matter how small. At the end of the day, notice one moment where you treated yourself differently, paused before judgment, or simply observed your feelings without reacting. These moments are threads weaving a new pattern inside you. Another lesson is acceptance. Accept that some days will feel heavier than others. That does not mean you have failed. It is part of the process. A sign you are practicing acceptance is when you notice tension or guilt rising, but you let it exist without chasing it away or punishing yourself for feeling it. Say to yourself, I am in this moment. I feel what I feel. I continue forward anyway. This simple acknowledgement creates space for the mind to slowly release its grip on old pain. A practical tip is to use small reminders. Short phrases, gentle notes, or simple actions can help you stay present in the process. For example, pause for 3 breaths when self-blame appears. Notice one small success at the end of each day. Speak kindly to yourself, even in one line, like, I am learning, I am noticing, I am growing. The final lesson is trust. Trust that change is happening even when it is invisible. Trust that the mind is capable of letting go one small step at a time. By focusing on the process rather than rushing toward an imagined perfect forgiveness, you release the pressure that often keeps guilt alive. You begin to notice subtle shifts. Reactions soften, tension fades faster, and self-compassion becomes more natural. Embracing the process teaches you that forgiveness is not a single act. It is a living, ongoing practice, built day by day, moment by moment, through patience, awareness, and gentle care for yourself. Regret is a heavy companion, but it can also be a teacher. This chapter is about looking at the moments you regret, not to punish yourself, but to learn from them. Jung believed that every experience, even painful ones, carries information about our patterns, motives, and choices. A sign that you are ready for this step is noticing that regret keeps returning in familiar ways, or that it feels like the same lesson is being repeated. Instead of trying to push it away, pause and ask, what is this regret showing me? What can I understand from it? Even small answers matter. A fleeting thought, a quiet realization, or a subtle shift in how you respond is proof that insight is forming. The first lesson is that regret only has power if you let it control you. By observing it and asking questions, you transform it into guidance. A tip is to write down what the regret is teaching you. For example, I acted without noticing my own needs, or I reacted before understanding the situation. These statements are not excuses, they are clarity. They help you see patterns that can be changed moving forward. Another lesson is compassion for yourself. Jung emphasized that awareness of patterns does not equal weakness. It equals growth. A sign you are practicing this compassion is noticing that when you recall the regret, your reaction softens slightly. The tightness eases. The mind stops replaying it in endless loops. Practical tips include: pause for a few breaths when regret arises. Notice the feeling without judgment. Ask yourself, what does this moment reveal about me? What can I do differently next time? Record one insight each day, even if it is small. Over time, the insights accumulate, and the regret begins to serve you instead of weighing you down. The final lesson is transformation. Regret can be heavy, or it can be useful. The choice is yours. By observing it, learning from it, and applying small insights in daily life, you turn regret into a guide rather than a burden. In this way, self-forgiveness grows deeper. The past does not disappear, but it becomes a teacher, a signal, and a step toward a wiser, more compassionate self. The journey of forgiving yourself does not end in a single moment. It is a path you walk quietly, step by step, day by day. Notice the small changes, the moments when your chest feels lighter, when thoughts of guilt fade faster, when you respond to yourself with patience instead of judgment. These are signs that the work has taken root. Even if the weight does not disappear completely, you have built strength, awareness, and care for yourself. Remember that forgiveness is a process, not a prize to be won. Jung taught that the hidden parts of ourselves, the shadow, are not enemies. They are guides showing us where we resist, where we fear, and where we can grow. The lessons of the past are not chains. They are threads that, when understood, weave a wiser, calmer, and more compassionate self. Carry the practices forward, noticing patterns, pausing before self-blame, naming the truth, acknowledging motives, and offering yourself release. Use gentle reminders each day. I am learning. I am noticing. I am allowing myself to grow. Even small acts matter. They accumulate. They strengthen the path of forgiveness and keep it alive. And when doubt returns, when the weight feels heavy again, remember this: the very act of returning to the steps is proof of progress.